Hey, George, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Brian. First and foremost, it's one my first time doing an interview like this, so super pumped and excited to be on. So thanks for having me.
Cool.
So yeah, again, my name's George Nebel, based up here in Boston, Massachusetts. I've had been 5 years in direct business-to-business sales. Had various roles within 2 companies now. I'm at a startup right now, but before that, I was at a larger energy management company focused on identifying various large electricity users through the process. So basically started my career in 2008 in a sales support role called lead generation. And it was a new team, really. We were embedded within the, the inside sales department to provide outbound sales the most juicy leads possible. So quite literally building out reports in Salesforce, putting the fish in the barrel and saying, sales, go at it.
Yeah.
So it was a good role for me to get an understanding. I came out of college, didn't really know what I wanted to get into. I had a family friend, luckily, at this particular company that said, "Hey, come on down, throw your hat in the ring, and see if we can't get a job for you." So it was truly a junior role. Like I said, really, I sat right amongst the inside sales team and just listened to the conversations they were having and make sure they were equipped to have the best, juiciest leads possible.
Yeah.
So what we were trying to identify back then was the largest electricity users in the United States. How do we get them in our CRM system? So we were using Salesforce. How do we make them rise to the top? And how do we make sure that if I'm a new salesperson, I'm making my 50 calls a day or 25 calls a day, depending on inbound or outbound. How are these just sitting in my queue, state by state, region by region, and make sure that these are effectively being worked.
And who were you trying to get in touch with at the company?
Yeah, so that's another piece of this too, right? It varies within the organization, right? We know that, hey, this is a large steel mill in Western Pennsylvania. Who do you need to talk to, right? It could be the CFO, could be the facility manager. There's all these different. So also additionally providing that other piece of information, right? Is it, what type of industry is it? That's usually a good indicator. But who do we think is the buyer? So looking at all of this information that was coming in based on post-sale wins, saying, okay, a CFO is typically buying for metal manufacturers like that. So we need to find all the CFOs possible in this industry. So doing the list pulls from Dun & Bradstreet, all these different types of databases, and just loading that in the system.
Wow. And was it a big company or small company?
Yeah. So I got there, we were a couple hundred people, so right under 500. And by the time I left, it was closer to 1,500. So I was there for really that kind of growing craziness. So eventually, I said, why am I, applying all these or giving these leads to the outbound team? Like, I should try to do this, right? So I got, after a couple of years of doing that support kind of functionality, the lead generation, I moved over to inside sales, did that for
It took a couple of years to figure that out?
Yeah, it was,
what were you
I probably
thinking?
should have done it a lot earlier, right?
Yeah. You go out in the parking lot, you got your Corolla and they're parking next to their 911.
Yeah. No, it was, that's exactly it. It's like, what am I doing? Let's get uncomfortable again. So that's really the big piece, right? Just taking a new cut, listening to all the people that I was sitting next to, and just, hey, let me try this out, right? So did that for 2 years, and I got to tell you, that was probably one of the more fun jobs I've ever had, right? Yeah. Inside sales, you're in a team environment with like 30, 40 reps, and just all in it together, 8 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m. all day, right? So
was it cubicles or was it open office or?
So it was cubicles, and we moved into a more open office concept. So yeah, it would get, as you can imagine, 40 people noisy. Yelling at and again, it goes to show you, like, you'd plan your day, given that we were still working, large electricity users, personas are all over the place. You're talking to a plant manager in New Jersey, getting hung up on, to, a Midwestern farmer. So you just have to, it's important when you're on the phone with these types of personas, different buyers, to really pick up on, who am I calling? what am I calling, and do that little bit of 2-second research to say, okay, like I got to bring it down for this tone. Look at, really figure it out from there.
And a lot of people don't do that. They use the same verbiage, the same pattern, the same.
Yeah.
And
right.
Right. That's it. A plant manager in New Jersey is very different than a farmer in Iowa.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. And like, know when you have to make that switch mentally to match, the person you have on the other line, right? Because you really have a couple seconds to get your point across.
Yeah.
I mean, these are true. That environment was truly cold calling. Like, you didn't always get names on the list, right? Like, it's who do I talk to?
Right.
So that's another element that you learn as well that I think is extremely important. I still apply to today. When you truly cold call a new business, right? Like, you call the general number, taking that time and empathetic approach to the receptionist or the person who's on the other line, saying like, hey, can you please help me? Because I actually don't know who I should be speaking to. I think you give them that sense of worth and ability, like not worth, but like the ability
Respect.
to really help you out. It's respect, right? Like, that's
You're not trying to trick them.
No, like that. I mean, I've worked with people that just, steamroll and sure, it works for them, but I find that it's way more effective, at least for my sanity, to just say, take that approach and, hey, can you help me out? Because I actually don't know who I should be speaking with.
You must have got that in college in Ohio. They don't teach that in Massachusetts, do they?
No. Yeah. It was a good 4-year stint in the Midwest to kind of take a,
humble you.
Yeah, get out of the East Coast for a minute, right?
Well, that is a great skill because that takes it another level, because most people get a list or they know the name.
Yeah.
Or at least the title of the person they want to talk to. You have to find out function.
Exactly.
Responsibility.
Yep. And if you have that title, right, the C level or the VP level, you're going high, like, it's important to, do the if not you, then who approach. I find that that's also extremely effective as well, right? Like, look, I know you're really busy. These are the problems we solve. I imagine this is not something that's on your radar. If it is, great. Really effective, quick little 2-sentence, 3-sentence email, right? I mean, it's
and if you can make it playful too,
absolutely.
If you're happy giving the electric company money, I'll let them know and they can up the bill.
Yeah, exactly. Try different things, right? Like you highlighted earlier, the fun part about being behind the desk and in that inside, it's trying different things, getting creative. I mean, one time I tried to get a meeting. We eventually got the meeting. I'm not sure if this helped or not, but we sent a fax machine, right? So think about it, right? Like, no one really uses the fax machine anymore, right? But we're like, we have a fax number. We know it works because we've sent over contracts before, and I just wrote something up and sent it over. And that probably landed on the person's desk, So it's just getting creative.
I used to do drop-bys with this guy. And he would go in and not even approach the receptionist and just go, take a chair. And we sit down. The receptionist, can I help you? No, we're fine. And she goes, do you need something? No, we're good. We're just trying to get out of the heat for a while.
Would they see you in or?
Yeah. And then we start a conversation. Yeah, we're sales guys, but we're sick of rejection. We're just going to hang out for a few minutes. Exactly. And we start talking and joking around.
Uh-huh.
And we just get the name. And that way we had the name and we just leave. And that way we could call later. And it was just fun.
Yeah.
And there was breaking up their day. And
exactly. And they probably don't see that type of tactic or really too much at all.
Right. They get the 50 business cards a day and they take them and they throw them out. Exactly. Right. It just goes in the pile and it collects dust and whatever. Right. So what was it like when you started doing the whole account exec part?
Oh yeah. So again, it was a larger company before I get into where I'm at right now. So then we, transitioned into direct sale, and it was great because, I got to go, I was truly all over the country. So again, I got to go to Utah, Idaho, Oregon, California was my territory. So a lot of traveling at a younger age. So that was always exciting. But then really just exciting because you could like still, value what a qualified meeting is. So like I get half my meetings a week from my inside sales reps. And then the other half would be for me. So I always made sure as an account executive, that I was spending at least one day on the phones, booking meetings the next day. It's important to feel that sense of uncomfortability and, be part of planning your schedule the next day. You can't rely on just inbound calls or inbound meetings from your inside sales team, right? So it's important to really own your book, right? So I can't emphasize that enough. Like I still do that today, especially today, given the size of our company. So you ask how it was great to kind of be full cycle. These are leads I probably created back in 2009, my first job out of college, and then to actually be closing them, fast forward 6-7 years, it's kind of like full cycle. So really excited.
And how about that face-to-face interaction where you have to carry the conversation? And I'm sure you're not selling to the most dynamic people in the organization.
Yeah. But again, it goes to show you the persona, right? So I always made sure I'd have a pair of work boots in the back of my truck, right? Because, I could be doing a presentation at a municipality where I got to be in a suit or a shirt and tie, and then go meet at the wastewater treatment facility or a cold storage facility up on one of the ports, right? So, you got to you don't want to be showing up in a full suit. So you want to be able to match your buyer and on the tonality. So really just depending on who you're meeting with and what you're meeting with, I think I can't emphasize that enough, and doing that kind of homework before.
And what did they care about? Were they just trying to save money? Were they trying to
save money on their energy, utility costs, get visibility into that? So large enterprises, it could just be one single site. There's 10 people on it, right? Or it's a Fortune 5 company, right? So it's really the range of customers you'd be meeting with, right? So.
And why would they not buy? Was the payoff not fast enough? Was there risk?
Yeah, it was just typically the economics didn't seem to make sense. Sounds cliche, but it's kind of what it is. We were working with a lot of utilities as well to help them kind of manage their demand at that side, right? So to avoid what California's experiencing right now, like the rolling brownouts and blackouts, right? That company we dealt with, managing the portfolio and finding folks that could, save energy, right?
So you drop by Enron and you find out where the
sensitive subject. Yeah, right. No.
Hey, could you help me out?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great, and I didn't have a background in this field. I want to emphasize, I'm not an electrical engineer by any means. This is something I truly, I went to college, got a general degree, moved on, knew I wanted to be back home in Boston, and, just kind of networked and found my way over to this company. So it's something kind of cool to be a part of and truly learn as a process. So really, being part of, different,
But, how technical could you just take their electric bill and say number of kilowatt hours and then do the math on a calculator? Or
yeah, a lot of that. I mean, we had sales tools at this type of company, basically okay, yeah, you're using this, we could save you this. This is, does this kind of make sense? A lot of, because the roles were all over the place, a lot of people, because it's such a new category, if you will, energy management, right?
Yeah.
It falls on so many different people's, okay, it's a CFO's job. No, it's a facility manager. There's not always going to be someone yes, I handle this, right? So to have someone that's been in the seat for 50 years and is retiring in 5 or 10 years, they're I'm not taking this on.
I'm not touching
right?
it.
So how do you put this tie into, the business channel, tie into that pain and all that other stuff? So it's important, like you said, when you meet with these guys to really focus on what is their challenges right now. So tying into that pain.
Right. Because they got personal wins.
Exactly.
Who's going to get bonused off of cost savings and who's going to get fired for, the 10 seconds of adoption.
Exactly. Right. And people don't want to put their,
their name on it. Yeah.
Exactly. Especially at some of these, the larger companies, campuses, government, they tend to have people that are focused on this. But there's so many companies out there that's just not a category or a priority really, because it's this kind of new wave. So, and especially where I'm at, currently right now, I'm at a true startup right now where there's 20 people. I'm the only person not in Southern California. So it's a great place for me to get to go out and see my team in the shoulder months of the year. But yeah, I mean, you talk about doing all the things that I did at my old company, right? The identifying the leads. Like we don't have someone that does that. The inside sales piece, we don't have someone really dedicated to doing that. So it's really the full swing of everything I've done. And then some other pieces too. We're doing the account management as well, the post-sale, even installation in some cases. I've been dragged into that. So it's,
Remember to turn the power off first.
Yeah, seriously. I'm like, I'm gonna get electrocuted. No, I'm kidding. But it's a learning. It's a quite different from the type of company that I was at, but I wanted to be challenged differently. So that was a part of me leaving when I did and coming over.
Because that is big. Because I was always a startup guy.
Yeah. What was that? So what was it like when you got somewhere bigger? I mean,
our company got acquired by IBM once.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we went from, under 100 people, under 10 million to 300,000 people and 70 billion, and my computer showed up the next day, I get a badge.
Yeah. Great.
I didn't know where I reported in the organization. Trying to get a deal done was, they had messaging things.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, now you're a manager, hire some people. And I'm like, I didn't want to be a manager.
That's great.
Well, do you want to work for this guy? I go, no, then you're a manager. Right? And, the trend, and they were a machine. So it was, they acquired companies that was not foreign to them at all. But, going from, I could call up the CEO, he'd be at the meeting tomorrow, need the product change, he'd make a call.
Yeah. Seriously. You go from an environment where it's very siloed, which is what I was used to kind of, hey, you got to figure it out. So, being part of this startup that I've been a little more than 2.5 years now, we didn't really have an outbound sales team. So It was like figuring out who you're going to sell to, where this product is going to work. We had to figure that out. So it's testing it in a few different places where this solution might make sense. So,
and that's it. But that's the good part of a startup. The bad part of a startup is you go there and they think they've got it figured out, but they haven't tested it yet.
Exactly.
Right. That's like the vaccine in stage -1, right? Where you look at the mouse dies.
Exactly. So figuring out, what we do for our company right now, right? We have a small medium business platform, software and a hardware component. So our customers are typically small, medium business, multi-site entities, right? So we got thousands of sites under management now that really just do a temperature scheduling. So we work with a lot of retailers and restaurants. So you can imagine how that kind of is in this day and age, but really just seeing the immediate savings, quick installation. I know I've done it. And really just get people satisfied and the peace of mind knowing that stuff is coming on and coming off according to however they want it. So.
And what was that like? You probably have your feet underneath you now. Where you
I would still say every day, I learn something new every day about my customer base, right? I mean, especially given the nature that they're in, the retail and the, quick serve restaurants. That's really where we're focused on. So there's obviously a lot of challenges that go with that. But I would say just, first of all, getting to that point of, okay, we know that this is where we want to be and this is where it's working. That took a couple months of a lot of, okay, should we try commercial office? What other types of customer bases should we try to go after? So it's a good learning experience. So once we figured out, okay, where do we want to focus? How do we go from finding these folks and making sure they're in the database and being, worked effectively. So it goes back to, the lead generation, the cold calling, and the and the closing, right? I mean, and I'm the only one doing, that's not in California. So a lot of these types of meetings now, and a lot of
So do you have that help now? The kind of the inside lead generation, SDR?
No. So it's still we're still in the early stages here, but we have a tremendous customer base. So I think it's something that we should be able to get some more headcount in that area. So it will be nice to kind of say, focus on this, do this. We know that this works, right? Do more of this. Yeah. So in the meantime, sorry, go.
And have you been able to scale that with either virtual assistants or technology or endless hours?
Yeah. I mean, so what I've tried to do is stick to what I know works for me, right? And I have this rule of 10, I call it, right? And it's every night or every afternoon. I have a newborn, so it tends to be after the kid goes to bed. But every night I pull 10 new records of folks that I'm going to call the following day. So I have all my other meetings that I got to conduct, all the account management, but I make sure I have 10 new things that I am excited about for the next day. So is it a new company? Is it a new contact at it? These are all the different types of things that I'm doing every night because it keeps it exciting. It goes back to what you were talking about earlier, right?
And do you make it a rule that you'll do something with them that next day?
Yep, do something with them. Okay. Calling. I do the research the night before, right? So okay, this company in Iowa, I want to talk to because I think they'd be a fit. Let's just get the general number. I'll cold call them. Oh, I have the CFO at this big organization. This is LinkedIn profile. Let me just try to get into that way, right? So these are all touch points that I make sure that are new, that are going to help me get more meetings the following week or later on the week, right?
And how long have you had this habit?
I'd say I adopted it inside sales. So that's over 5 years ago. So really just sticking to that kind of cadence, if you will, and applying it, to what I have now, right? Especially now, like if I don't book new meetings for myself, we're just spinning tires here. We're just going to be doing the same thing. Okay, I called the company. Yeah, I left a voice.
Follow up again.
All email, didn't get anywhere. Like what are you truly doing to move the ball forward, right? Yep. So I try to just keep myself honest, right? We have all of our open tasks, I'm a pretty big Salesforce, user. So just making sure that all that comes in and, the open tasks are all there. And I'm just sticking to, additionally, the 10 new action items the following day.
And how long does it take you to come up with 10?
It can be quick, right? I mean, okay, right? It can be pretty quick, but, it can also take 20, 30 minutes as well.
It's still not that long.
Yeah.
But it's a great habit. That's what, 2,400 a year, right?
Right. I mean, it's simple math, right? But those are new touches, right? And if you did, and it's not a lot of time, right? Especially now we know where we want to be focused. Making sure you're laser focused in that industry and to that buyer or what you think that buyer is, right?
And how long does it take to execute on 10? Do you give it a certain time gap, or you just don't go to bed until it's done? Or
I just try to keep myself honest, right? There's some nights where it's more, there's some nights where it's less, but I know if I've done that based on my following week, right? Yeah. Right? It's easy to say, okay, yeah, I'm done for the day, but keeping yourself held to that standard is so important, and you ultimately see it in the back end, right? 10 new things that you're excited about the following day.
And I think that's a great lesson, because when you come up from that inside, you have those habits and that mindset.
Yeah.
And you don't really get rid of that.
No. And I've worked with some great people over the years too. So and had some sales training over the years. So kind of just taking different things that people put in front of you, being able to try it out. Different tactics. We're the fortunate ones. We get to be creative, get to talk to people. We don't have to sit behind our computers and code or put lists in the system for salespeople to call, right? Like what I was doing. But you know, like we're the lucky ones that get to be out and genuinely be curious with our customers and just get to learn, you know, learn about the bit. How's all this impacting your day to day, right? Like you genuinely be curious. So
you've used that word a lot. Has that really helped you in becoming great at sales? Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you ask and generally show that you're interested in life too, and what someone else is doing, not just sales, right? It gets you to, you know, people start opening up to learn a lot more. I'm not an A student by any means, but you know, I could play the dumb guy, ask a question.
Right?
Very good. Yeah. So you know, I try to always, you know, just keep it, you know, casual as best I can, and keep the dialogue open, right? Because ultimately at the end of the day, you know, I want to be the trusted advisor for the customer. Right. Like,
and I always found, because I hated the idea of standing up in front of people presenting. So I go, how do I get out of this? I come up with a bunch of questions and get them talking.
Yeah.
And when they jumped up at the whiteboard and started drawing,
oh, yeah,
I was like, and I'd sit back there and I go, this is too easy.
Yep. Yeah.
That's so much more fun. Well, what other things do you think really changed your sales career?
Yeah, so I would say, you know, recently I picked up on something that you know, another person that I listened to as well said, and, you know, going back to basics, right? You know, if you're ever finding yourself in a rut, sales it happens to all of us, you know, slow week, slow month, slow quarter, like it just happens. To get out of that, do what you do best. Right. So I got that advice, you know, like I said, probably within this year. And it's been like, you know, picking up the phone, just cold calling people or getting meetings or, you know, building, just doing stuff that you do best or you think you do best that makes you feel good and like, all right, we're triggered or we're trying different vertical now or different customer persona. Like that's the type of stuff that, you know, I think I do good at. So trying to get to that, I think is extremely beneficial and one that I preach on to, you know, a lot of my other friends in sales, right?
Yeah, but it's a lot like sports. It's like, you know, if you think you have an injury, but you're not sure, it's like, walk it off, get the body moving and the mind follows.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. Yeah.
You know, and I think in sales is the same thing, you know, whatever you like to do. What always worked for me is I call a friend, but talk about sales, and now you warmed up.
Yeah.
And then don't hang. My trick was never hang the receiver up.
Okay.
And just click the clicker and then type in the next number. And I can't hang the receiver up for 4 hours. And I just do it. And
that's great.
And you can call anyone you want.
Oh my word.
It's kind of like act as if.
Yeah.
Until you got it going.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I think, you know, I can't emphasize enough. I know I said it earlier, but like, we are truly the lucky ones that get to go out and meet with folks and be, you know, ask the questions, you know, learn something new every day. We don't sit behind our computers and live in this world of spreadsheets, right? We get to have that dialogue. And different touch points with different types of organizations throughout the world. So yeah.
And where do you see yourself taking your career?
Yeah, so I like the element of coaching. I generally like being around people. So you know, my next role, or you know, see what happens with this company. I could see, you know, maybe taking on more of a headcount role. You know, maybe for younger kids out of college. You know, more of the inside sales manager type deal. So yeah, who knows?
Cool. Hey, it's been a great conversation, George. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
You go to my LinkedIn page, George Neville, and at Zen Ecosystems. My father also is George, and my newborn is also George. So we have a line. So yeah, George Neville at Zen Ecosystems.
Is he George the Third, or is it?
We all have different middle names. So yeah,
Oh,
he has the same initials as me, though. So that makes it interesting.
It's like the George Foreman.
Right. Yeah. Well, we didn't have a daughter, so that's, I guess, good, right?